Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, currently featuring Steven Universe, Miraculous Ladybug, the new Powerpuff Girls, and Archer. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
Today, Delaney and I will be discussing episodes 10 and 11 of the new Powerpuff Girls reboot. Powerpuff and Tiara Trouble. Delaney and I have been going through all the episodes of the new Powerpuff Girls reboot here on the Overly Animated Podcast, usually in groups of 3. Today we're going a group of 2 to end the part 2 of the premiere week. Premiered 2 weeks. So after this, the show's going to be airing on Thursdays weekly on Cartoon Network, and our coverage will change to a bi-weekly. So we'll cover every other week in sets of 2, much like we're covering 2 episodes here. Check us out at overlyanimated.com, and you can subscribe to us on iTunes by searching for the Overly Animated Podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Check out our other new Powerpuff Girls podcasts if you haven't heard our opinions on those. We're going to get right into these 2 episodes. Delaney, general impressions of Power Up Puff and Tiara Trouble.
Power Up Puff, I liked the episode. It was fine. We were waiting for like a Blossom-focused episode. It was a little weird, though, because we kind of already saw this power, like, a few episodes ago.
Yeah, this episode is definitely out of order.
Granted, they were like, what's that? And she was like, I don't know. So, it was just weird. Like, okay, they have powers now. Also, this is kind of a big deal, like, so we're clearly kind of moving away. Like, this was not a traditional power of the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
Also, it's kind of funny that they did this with Blossom, because Blossom is the only one who actually has, like, well, Buttercup is the only one who doesn't have, like, a power specific to her. Like, Bubbles has ice breath, and then Bubbles has a supersonic voice. So it's really, which they did do in the next episode, her singing. It's really interesting that they did this, because, like, Blossom's, like, I don't know, like, she has her ice breath, and, like, she's the leader and stuff. So it's an interesting thing that happened. I liked the episode. And it was very much a tradition, like...
Yeah.
Oh God.
Tiara Trouble. What do you think of this one?
The problem I have with Tiara Trouble is that we have him, and...
We'll discuss him. What about the episode overall, though?
The episode overall was fine. It was also Tiara Trouble is, like... I was watching an old episode of Powerpuff Girls. Like, this was 100% original Powerpuff Girls. Like, we had our little side plot, and, they fought, and then we had, like, this super creepy villain stuff that happened, and it was, like, scary. And, like, this is Powerpuff Girls. Not for children's. Like, it got super weird, super quick, and just went... Which, that's what happens when him's the villain, so...
Yeah, Tiara Trouble is a weird episode. It
so traditional.
It's felt like traditional episode. They just threw in all the villains we basically hadn't seen yet, and I think it was okay. I don't think it was incredible, but it was fine. I think that Power Up Puff, though, I think was potentially the best episode of the show so far. I think that it kind of hit on all cylinders. Really? I think that it was funny. I think it was great character wise, and I think that maybe most importantly, like, the action moments were just really great characterization moments. I think that definitely the best fight scene so far, and it felt really kind of like I was invested in it, and it was more than just like 1 or 2 minutes thrown in at the end because they don't really know what to do with fight scenes yet. Like, I felt like this one kind of made sense. I definitely felt like Powerpuff was supposed to be one of the first episodes of the show. Yeah,
I think it was supposed to, like, and it's so quick, like, they're so them, like, they all it's literally the same power. Like, they're not, like, they each have the same ability. It's just unique to, like, who they are. So, like, also Bubbles was so freaking adorable in both of these episodes. It was painful. Like,
obviously,
Bubbles is so cute. It's unreal. Like, I
think that yes, Bubbles obviously the greatest. You're coming around. I think that if these were the first and second episodes of the show that aired, I think it might have made more sense than what we saw. I mean, the first episode,
I think so too.
The first episode was maybe supposed to be the first episode, but, like, our introduction to Mojo was completely non-traditional. This would have made more sense. This introduces all the other villains. I think these are notable because they're so essential to this new show's mythology. Tiara Trouble worries me, as I said, in our last podcast to other episodes that have aired. I don't want them... I mean, I think that they've been let's say it this way. I think they've been unsuccessful so far when they've tried to replicate the old show as opposed to doing their new thing. And I think that's kind of emblematic with these two episodes because Power Up Puff was very much one of the new episodes of the show. The humor felt like Gravity Falls. The characterization was much more intense, and it was like they had a more prominent with the action here, but it was still characterization focused. So I feel like Power Up Puff is just very much a new Powerpuff Girls episode. And Tiara Trouble is they brought back all the old villains.
They're night and day. Like the episodes are so different.
They're very different, yeah. And I mean I still think there's similarities. They still try to do the interesting things with the characters, yeah. And there's in the beginning of the episode there's a clear tie between them. They both feature show parodies at the beginning, so yes. I think that they feel somewhat similar. But we'll discuss the direction that the end of that episode takes. So let's start with Power Up Puff, though. So, like I said, I think this might be the best episode of the show. Let me, I guess, try to defend that. We start off with kind of a great TV show parody. Like I said, this just feels so much like Gravity Falls. Well,
this is so good. Like, I have recently discovered how much I love Chopped, and then they do a parody of it on the Powerpuff Girls. Like, I love it. This is good stuff.
Yeah, and it's like this is like I don't know why it was almost like a Iron Chef parody to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely is supposed to be Chopped from the title. And just the whole concept of like there just being a German mad scientist as one of the chefs is like the best thing ever. Like, and that makes more sense kind of in like Iron Chef International or whatever. But yeah, it was just so good and I loved it. Chef Schnitzel is wonderful. And then I feel like the beginning of this episode is really seamless between the show parody, them watching, and then the beginning of the action. And of course, it makes no sense. Why would the show be live? But the fact that
so good.
The fact that it is like leads to some of the most fluid storytelling they've done. I think that the way they characterize these new light projection powers, and I don't know what to call them, and if anyone knows if we have an official name for them, let us know. But just like. Yeah, like what do you projection? Like I don't know. What can you think of?
I would assume it's something that's like it's kind of like telepathic projection kind of going on. Like it's something they see in their mind and they can create like through, and it's clearly like kind of sort of energy. It's just like energy stuff, and they just make it like this isn't like a new thing. Like we've seen other like this is a common superpower to have.
I think it's a good idea to introduce this because this leads to easy amounts of representations of their unique personalities and characterizations, and I think it really works.
It also means they're not afraid to branch out with the Powerpuff Girls because like before it was very much they have super strength, laser vision, X-ray vision, and then there's like Bubble like and Bubbles and Blossom have their special abilities, but they're not afraid to like they can do more. We could theoretically they can develop more powers.
Yeah, like
we don't, and it's so funny because even Professor Utonium is like IDK.
Yeah, it's like you might never get powers. Yeah, it was pretty good. Some good uses of Professor Utonium here and in the second, especially again especially.
Okay, in both episodes, Professor Utonium is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, so let's talk briefly for a second, high level here. So, I think we're both in favor of this show branching out from the original series. And I think that just showing having a new power, it's not that it really matters that they have a new power or they don't have a new power. I think it just matters that the show just doesn't try to be something that it's not. Like I looked potentially at some earlier reviews of the show, and a lot of them are very focused on comparing this to the old show, and I really think that's a mistake. This clearly from the beginning, from the theme song, from the first episode, we're trying to do something different with the show. And like, if you're gonna be too tied to the old show, which was incredible in its own ways, then you're just not going to create something unique or interesting, and you're inevitably going to fail trying to recreate something that you like don't.
Like lightning doesn't strike twice.
And like I feel like for me at this moment, the show is more important. It's like its own lightning strike. It's more important in the current age than I feel attachment towards the old show. And I really did love Powerpuff Girls when I was younger, but I care more about what this show is doing right now as itself. So to see like the second episode get too drawn into the old show is pretty disappointing, as some other episodes this week did. But at the same time, Powerpuff is really emblematic of a lot of good things the show is doing to differentiate itself, but not to differentiate itself from the old show. It doesn't matter how close or far away you are. You could be at a completely different show. What matters is that you're establishing your own show's identity and like being successful in the type of storytelling you're trying to approach here. So,
Like we don't need another like the original Powerpuff Girls was okay, it's a kids show, but it's also kind of too smart. Like we don't need another satirical like, oh, this cartoon's like too smart for itself, blah blah blah, and like blah, like no, we don't need that again. Like,
and it's not that we're trying to like insult the old show or anything, right?
No,
I don't know. It's not even clear if this is anything close to the quality of the old show at this point. But
we're taking this concept of the Powerpuff Girls and we're making it accessible to a new generation of kids watching television, and I like that's what's so great about and it's accessible in the way that it needs to be accessible to like this generation. Like this is the Powerpuff Girls they need.
The show,
like they don't need the Powerpuff Girls we watched. Like they need a different Powerpuff Girls, and it's like it's in smaller bites, and it's more like, and it's cute and like sweet, and it's just like there's so much good to it, and it's not trying to be. Granted, the Tiara Trouble episode is worrisome, and that it's not trying to be dark or edgy. Like it's just like being Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah,
and we're dealing with things in a way that isn't childish or annoying.
For me, the most important part of this new show is that it's modern and
it's updated, and that's what we need. That's what a reboot should be.
It's like the most important of it being modern is how progressive and feminist it is. That's number one, and then also just this modern type of humor with the show parodies and kind of like sincere parody instead of like subversive parody. I think is like current cartoon humor versus like early 2000s, late 90s cartoon humor, and not that it necessarily needs to follow the mold, but I think it makes sense with what they're trying to do. And it's like Tiara Trouble just feels so asynchronous. I mean, you have an episode where we bring back kind of this villain who's not clear what statements are being made or like anything involving it's like we're completely disregarding the progressive elements of the show to a certain extent, yet at the same time it features Professor Utonium recording the girls with like an iPad. It just feels so weird, and the humor is also really like late 90s. It's like weird and dark, and yet we still have these modern elements to it. The show, it feels like the show at this point is kind of struggling with what it's supposed to be or what
it's confused. Like it wants to be both, and it can't really be both. Like, the original Powerpuff Girls was, I mean, you were talking about parody, and it's kind of like old Powerpuff Girls is kind of cruel, like in a lot of ways. Like it's not really like it's a kid's show, but like there was some very like cruel, like mean aspects of like the original Powerpuff Girls. And we're having this update that has a lot to do with like the satirical elements of the show and like the parody. And then here we have this like they're more like you're talking about lighthearted parodies. They're more like genuine and like sincere. Like they're not. It's not like this like dark undertone to anything.
Kids are supposed to understand why the chopped parody is funny, and they're supposed to like, laugh along with it, right? It's not supposed to be above their heads. I think that's
right.
That's
And then we have Tiara Trouble, and it's just this weird, dark, like pageant gone wrong for no reason. Like Princess Morbux's head has to spin around, and like her body has to like no.
Even the very concept of just playing and having a plot that plays into a beauty pageant feels very asynchronous with the feminist message of the current power.
And also there were kind of like I couldn't tell if they were trying to be sincere or if it was honestly a joke about like the all-inclusive pageant. Like, because they said like because they're like this all-inclusive. Like, are you making fun of it being all-inclusive, or is that the point that it is all-inclusive? Like,
I didn't really understand what that means. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's because there's really a bunch of different types of people in it. Yeah, the tone of that episode is just very off, and it's hard to take progressive stances and like assume the best with that line when you also bring back your character, which is potentially very. We'll talk about him in a second. Let's get through the first episode, then we'll get into specifics on Tiara Trouble. So, yeah, like I said, very much loved this chopped parody and Mr. Ingredient hot dogs and
Like literally, it's chopped. Like I love chopped. Like it's like make me a dessert with a meatloaf and a rotten banana. Go.
Yeah, but like they would have a weirder ingredient probably. I mean, they don't have one; they have multiple, right? So
yeah, which is why it's funny that it's a hot dog, and it's like I'm gonna make pigs. Like it's so funny. Like it's just so
just
good.
the concept of just the mad scientist being on Chopped is so good.
Yeah, it's great.
It.
Also, it's even funny. It's just funny because like literally the whole point of the show is because Professor Utonium messed up.
Yeah,
it's so
that's
good.
true. Yeah, why are there other mad scientists on the show? Yeah,
but it makes it so great. There are other mad like it's so funny.
He's making pigs unta blanket. Is changing the molecular structure, and Bubbles is like, "Ooh, I love piggies."
Bubbles is so painfully adorable in this episode.
But Blossom says, "Just because we are watching pigs doesn't mean we need to be pigs." It's great. Yeah.
Well, how many times they say piggy in this episode is overwhelming. Yeah. Like it's so great.
They combine to make a giant pig in the blanket. Let's go save the day and the ratings, says Buttercup.
This was also the cutest villain ever. Like, let's be clear.
They didn't even want to do anything bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, can I hug it? Like, I don't like when Bubbles like he's cute. I was like, I also think the giant pig in a blanket is cute. Like, I want to hug you.
Buttercup has her light projection thing. Bubble says, "Ooh, someone's got the piggy giggles." I love piggies, and then the pig is like, "I'm a piggy," I think in its subtitle. Yeah. And Bubbles gets her projection, and she's like, "Or a dolphin," and then Blossom says that's a porpoise. And
what's so funny is like Buttercup gets her power because like she's like angry, and then Bubbles gets hers because she's overwhelmed by how cute.
Yeah.
And then Blossom gets her power because she's just like she's being like her like bossy. I shouldn't say bossy. I don't like that word, but like. She's, being a leader and like she's confident and she's very comfortable with herself and she like become like it's so great. Like it's good stuff.
I bet he'll stop for a kitty, says Bubbles, then transform the kitty, and then the pig is like, "A kitty, I must stop." Yeah.
So good. Why does he have to stop for a kitty? Like this like I didn't want them to hurt him. Like he was just so cute.
Yeah. They got new powers. When Blossom gets them, Professor says they might never get them, might lose the powers you have. That's a very Professor Utonium scene. Just like being
love unite.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because the look on his face, he's like, I messed up.
Yeah. They're showing off their powers with kids on the playground. Apparently they're in school, even though we barely see that. We saw it like one episode, but
pretty fun.
Blossom's sad, and then she like goes through these signs. She sees like an upgrade new feature sign, then she's like junk pointing to her. She's like, "Geez, I get it. I like that."
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Come on, cheer up, Bloss, says Bubbles, I think. So now they both call her Bloss, for the record. Yeah. I do love that show. Their kitchen is so well organized, says Blossom about Slice.
We're so Blossom, it hurts.
We are, yeah. Sliced Redemption is they're doing now, and they bring back Chef Schnitzel. He makes meatloaf, and the host is like, "No monster."
Why? He literally makes monsters.
The host is like, "No monster yet," and I spoke too soon.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Help us, Powerpuff Girls, especially the two with the new powers. I'm gonna stay here and staple some papers. It helps me think, says Blossom.
Well,
it's
so
wonderful.
good.
Power, no powers. My sisters need me, but not before I clean this up.
And then she cleans the ghost.
Bubbles is allergic to pimentos. She's a broom, a stapler. Cool. says Blossom when she turns into it. Yeah, tapes dispenser. That girl's got no imagination. She says. There's no way he can get out of that. It's double-sided tape.
And then he just slices. So.
I'm the leader. There's always a plan B. They like playing the theme song in the background, which is interesting, like a version of it. One more thing to do, clean up this mess, and she like dust busts it. And then Bubble says, "As long as she cleans our room too, it's all right with me." What do you think of?
Turned into a sponge.
Yeah. What do you think of Blossom's characterization in this episode? We said that she hasn't been the most prominent of the three. What do you think of her here?
This is they're really playing up like she's the leader, which they hadn't really been focusing on too much before. So I'm glad they're they're letting Blossom have something. And she's a leader, and like she's and they're not tiptoeing around like how her like she likes to be organized and she likes to clean and like all this stuff. And so like I think it's really good. Like this is some good, like this is more solid than we had seen. And I'm glad that they're choosing to play it up rather than like just let it be there.
Yeah, I don't.
Because we've gotten hints of this before. before. Like we knew like she likes things that are organized.
Yeah,
and
my
she likes to
my
sleep.
only concern with this episode is it's supposed to be like a big Blossom characterization episode. I'm like, to a certain extent, all it amounts to is that she likes things being clean,
Right.
which is a little light characterization. But I think it's supposed to be indicative of larger things.
Well, I
Um,
agree. It's also like, I mean, I think it's also too much kind of ingrained in our society when we like, oh, she's a woman. She likes to be organized and clean. And then we see a character like Buttercup. And we're like, oh, Buttercup's more interesting because she doesn't like girl things.
that's
Or, like,
interesting.
so I think
Yeah.
we kind of tend to be like, oh, she's not as exciting as Buttercup or Bubbles. But I think they're all equally like characterized at this point, and um, I think they're on an equal playground now. But I also do think Blossom kind of takes herself out of the situation sometimes. I think because we talk about she has some hilarious background commentary. Like Blossom's like hilarious, and so I think it has a lot like in some situations it might just be Blossom's character that like she's the leader, but she doesn't take charge in everything.
I think it's an interesting point that maybe it's just that we think it's unexciting and not atypical. But
I do think, and I think that's what's great about this show is that like we're celebrating like all these different
Yeah.
aspects of like you can be a girl and you can do whatever you want and it's cool and you're still a girl and like it's super feminist. You can do whatever you want because
yeah,
that's
they
what
do
it's
this
about.
with they do this with Bubbles too, and it's like they make jokes about her being hyper focused on cleaning, but also they just
Right.
play it straight and like that's just what she likes and stuff, right? Same
That's
thing
what
they've
she
done
likes.
with Bubbles, yeah.
And like and they're siblings and they make fun of each other, but they don't really mean it in any mean spirited way. They're like, well,
Yeah.
it's cool. If she's gonna clean our room, that's nice too. Like
I think it's a fair point to say that maybe like she's as much characterized as the others. Buttercup, like it's not like she's had super interesting things either, right? It's just that like fighting and tough and
Bubbles
stuff like
likes
that.
animals and
Yeah.
Buttercup likes to beat stuff up, and then Blossom likes to clean. Like
Yeah, the
it's
only
fun.
characterization for Bubbles this episode is she likes animals.
She likes
She
animals.
just turns into a bunch of different animals, which is great.
Like Bubbles' characterization is that she is just like absolutely painfully adorable.
Yes, stuff. I mean, yeah. So I think this might be my number one episode. I'm not sure, but it might be.
I mean, it's pretty good. I do feel like this should have been like earlier.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go through Tiara Trouble. So, they're watching a parody Space Tow Truck in the beginning. It's interesting.
Space tow truck.
Buttercup says, "Man, I can't believe Space Tow Truck figured out how to avoid all that paperwork after that Neptunian moving violation." I think she says. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
it was something like that.
It's
They would watch a show like that.
interesting. They're also eating pancakes while they're watching.
They're adorable. Like,
Townsville
they're so
beauty
great.
talent all around all inclusive flair pageant. And then Bubble the preview's like, "Do you like this?" And Bubbles is like, I do. Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's pretty good
Mysterious crystal tiara of unknown origins. Interesting.
because that's not a red flag.
Yeah. Mojo in jail. He says he wants to be the prettiest princess of them all. Interesting.
Yeah.
We haven't seen enough Mojo to know what they're doing with
No,
him
we
yet,
haven't.
but
No.
Bubbles annoying
pretty-
singing. Bubbles says, "I don't want to do it alone. It'll be too scary." I thought that was interesting. These girls. Something I wanted to say about Blossom characterization is: do you think it's unrealistic for like a 8-year-old girl to have that as her primary feature?
Like liking to clean and be organized.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Blossom
Like-
definitely seems older than Bubbles. Like that's I guess that's what I want to highlight.
Well, my thing is, it's kind of like, well, let's take the character of Hermione Granger, for example.
Mm.
Like, she's 11, and it's like, Hermione, what are you? But, I mean, I do think it's realistic. Like, I mean, some people do act older. And also, like, Blossom is the leader, and I think that kind of, like, and those things kind of bleed into each other. Like, it's part of her personality, that's why she's the leader, but then she's also the leader, so it bleeds into her personality.
Yeah. I think it's.
I mean, they're
interesting.
not really like they do an interesting job of like they're little girls, but then they're not. They're superheroes. So like there's just a lot of like going and I mean I was like when I was younger, like I'm not as organized now, but like literally when I was like younger, I was like, oh, everything has to be like I like being organized and
Yeah, I
like
can
doing
see it.
stuff that Blossom does. So I mean, I think it's realistic.
I just definitely think Bubbles seems like very much younger than Blossom
Well,
at times.
But I think that has to do that. Again, that I think that has to do with how we perceive things in society. Is that like, oh, you think things are cute, like, and we always like get like people like, oh, when you say there's kind of that idea of like when you call someone cute, it kind of like it's almost a little bit belittling, like little like, oh, you're cute, I'm not taking you seriously, like you're adorable, but like I'm not taking you seriously because you're cute. And like that kind of like also that's the thing with there's ageism too in that, like, oh, you're younger, I can't take you seriously. So I think that just has like we just kind of perceive things that way, I think.
Yeah, I think it's
like
fair.
based on like personality traits.
Yeah, I think it's another good point. You've countered me twice with societal expectations, which is totally the way to get me to agree with your argument. So, I think that's a good point. We have
Which the show does such a oh my god, my words happened again. Words
yeah,
backwards.
yeah.
Like this show is doing a really great job of like presenting these things in like a really kind of like approachable and like kind of obvious way. Like it's not super subtle, but it's not in the sinuses either. Like they're doing a really great job just presenting all of these things in like 11 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is like episode 11, and we've had a lot of stuff so far. We have Princess Morbucks, Team Morbucks, and they have a white tiger. I want to point out to you, as we've recently discussed.
I know you got excited.
We recently discussed that.
I
don't remember if it was on this podcast or on other show podcasts, but
I think it was a Ladybug podcast.
Yeah. Okay. They do glamour nails for Bubbles, which they just like stick fake nails on her stub hands.
Don't have hands. It's so funny.
Bubbles has like a bunny dress. What animal was that? Or sheep or something? I don't know.
I think it was a sheep or a bunny. Either way, it was adorable, and I wanted to cry. It was so cute. Which I just talked about how saying cute isn't that great, but like I'm sorry, she's adorable. Like
I mean, they're also kids, so you know.
Like they're precious children.
Buttercup says, "Get ready to get elegant," which I think is interesting for.
That was really funny.
Buttercup's
like,
characterization.
She has a curling iron and like a blow dryer. And it's like really intimidating, like scary. Get elegant. It's like okay, Buttercup, whoa.
Yeah. We have a flashback of Mayor getting the crown, and it's from him, which I think was pretty notable when I was watching it. I didn't know that happened, and we were recently discussing whether him would be back. So
yeah, and then he's there.
Yeah. Mayor is the host. We have the gang, Green Gang. We have Fuzzy Lumpkins, Mojo, and Princess Morbuck. So apparently we're just bringing almost literally every single villain from.
Yes.
There's a few that we haven't seen yet, but yeah. I don't know why they're all there, but Bubbles comes out with.
Also, it's really funny they broke out of prison to do this, but it's like, so you could have broken out of prison this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, Mojo just like punches the wall or something, right? And
he has like a laser, and he literally pulls a gun out of his pocket and does it. It's like you could have left whenever you wanted to.
Yeah, but he wants to be the prettiest princess, so that's why I left.
Mojo Jojo is is the best.
Bubbles comes out with a bunch of cue cards, and she's like, "Hello, I'm world poverty," and then she mixes them up. Yeah.
Which makes so much sense because obviously Blossom wrote these note cards.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Bubbles, and I can lift this whole building over my head. And I love animals. It's great.
And she literally gets out and lifts the building.
Yeah. Talent portion, Grangy Grang does like Bollywood dancing. I'm not sure if that was what that was supposed to be, but
I wasn't really sure what that was either.
Mojo's on the piano, and he doesn't even get to play.
That was really funny.
Morbucks' baton, and then has a puppy cannon. I don't care about winning. I just want to have fun, says Bubbles, and then she runs off. Morbucks wins.
I felt so bad.
Yeah, Morbucks wins. Green, she turns green demonic because the thing gets possessed, and him is there. No one really notices. I don't know if that's
they don't really they don't even.
I guess
the Powerpuff Girls don't even notice. They don't say anything.
Have the Powerpuff Girls ever interacted with him?
Obviously on this show, no, but the thing, they don't know how to fight him because him is such a complicated and
So I read the description. So him's just supposed to be like the psychological causing devil character, right?
Yeah, him is supposed to be like Satan. That's kind of the idea behind. Yeah. But the Powerpuff Girls know who he is, and they fight him. And the thing is, they never really know how to fight him. But
geez, I'm feeling a little burnt out. Haha, nice. More Blossom Buttercup bonding. They shatter the tiara, hammer. Bubbles. Okay, so
they were singing Bubbles and Blossom were singing the tow truck theme song.
Yeah, they were. And then
it was amazing.
I didn't even know that's what it was at first. And Bubbles sings and shatters it. So let's talk about this. Bubbles makes the no me gusta face, and then she literally says that.
I had to pause and be like, what did I just see?
So okay, new Powerpuff Girls and related staff. There's a line to draw in terms of modern and
being
awful,
a meme
and being awful. And you chose this awful meme and to put on my favorite precious character's face, and this is an unforgivable act.
I could have dealt if she had just said no me gusta, but no, she literally did the face, and I was like, I can't.
It was really bad. These bad modern Reddit era memes, and it's just the worst. And don't do that to Bubbles. There's a larger rant here, but that's the short.
Oh my god, it was so shocking.
It feels really asynchronous when we have a bunch of weird him shenanigans going on at the same time.
Yes,
and then
we have a meme. Yeah, I don't know how to deal with this.
Very weird. Buttercup and Blossom are singing bad, and then the professor's there with iPad. Great singing, girls. I love you.
He's so like Professor Tony was such a dad, which is so funny because really in previous Powerpuff Girls he wasn't so much of a dad, but he's this is good stuff. He's doing his best, single dad, no idea. He
wasn't
clueless.
Like a dad last episode, really. He was just
he didn't. But it's so funny because he has no idea what he's doing, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, that was
because he tries so hard, but he is just this. Which the thing is why would you try and make little girls if you had no idea what you were gonna do?
Yeah.
Really, Professor and then good job, they have superpowers. A+. Good job, Professor Utonium.
Yeah, Bubbles sings Shatters the Thing. Him says, "What a delightful evening at the theater," and then he teleports. And you guys can be pretty scary sometimes, but it's okay. I still love you, says Bubbles, I assume. And Fuzzy Lumpkins breaks the iPad when he's ice, and then he comes teleporting down. I seen things ain't no man should ever see. And then they laugh at that. I feel like that's a very original Powerpuff Girls type ending.
No, that was literally the ending of this episode. Was the ending of several other Powerpuff Girls episodes where they're all together and Professor Utonium and the girls all laughing. This is
okay. 2 minutes to talk about him. I don't know. I honestly don't know if I know enough to. But so here's the question: Is him transphobic? Is the character of him transphobic? Yes.
The problem is with him is that. So him is a cross-dressing character. We didn't do this in this episode, but he does an effeminate, he will change his voice depending on what's going on. And that in of itself isn't that bad, but the problem is he's supposed to be Satan. And when we have all these characteristics for a character who is supposed to be Satan, no, this is the problem. No, bad stuff. Bad.
It's you're associating people who don't necessarily identify with birth sex or to a certain extent, right? Don't exhibit characteristics or something like that as Satan, right?
Yeah, and they do this, and this has been going. This is a depiction. They talk this is oh my god, this is a horrible depiction, and this is so common too. There's characters like him are not uncommon, and that's why we have this problem with transphobia and stuff, is because we've always had this idea of cross-dressing has always been associated with Satan and evil and all this stuff. And it's so frustrating. And him's design is just such a problem.
The design, and also being called him, and right, I think.
Well, the thing is, and the problem with him is, so him possibly stands for His Infernal Majesty because he's Satan. Also, though, him's actual name they never speak. There's an entire episode in it's so awful you can never speak his name, which. That's really ridiculous, especially if it has a lot to do with a lot of times people if they change their name to conform to go with people who they don't want to be called a different name, and then so now we're doing this thing you can't say his name. Really, all of this is bad. Let's just the whole list check off bad, and it has no place in this new Powerpuff Girls. No place.
Yeah, and I think it's also show to a certain extent. It's showing this character being cross-dressing, it's a very much a 10, 15 years ago type of thing, instead of genuinely portraying him as trans or something might be more acceptable, right? Yeah.
There's the thing is Mojo Jojo, they do think Mojo Jojo doesn't really conform to gender roles at all. It's Mojo Jojo, and they do Mojo Jojo is fine because they don't do it in this horrific way. But then you have him, and it's just stop. And the problem is, him is second villain. He is the second most he's he's one of the arch nemesis. It's bad. He's gonna come back, and it's oh no, can we not do this? So I can't even think of how they're going to correct this, or if there's anything they can do, because part of the problem is literally how the character looks, his depiction.
Yeah. And they seem to just play the character straight for what he was in the original series.
Well, they didn't even they just present him. They don't even talk they don't say his name. They don't do anything. Like the Powerpuff Girls don't even acknowledge him. He's just there.
There's probably a good opportunity here to like genuinely make this character trans and like do good, interesting things with it. And which is what you'd expect from this reboot, but they seem to just be playing the villain straight, and which I think makes sense with what they've done before in terms of not like good makes sense, but like they've seemed to try to respect the original elements of the original plot, like to too much of an extent. So I think this is really yeah. Go ahead.
They also might be. I mean, we don't know. This is the first episode we've seen with him. We've been waiting this entire time to see if they were going to have him in the show, and they might be building up to like the reveal of him that maybe they're like, oh, we don't really like they might be introducing him as a new villain, right? Like that's why they didn't acknowledge and no one noticed. So maybe we'll have more episodes and like then we'll maybe have some acknowledgement and like maybe we could like save his character a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with the character. If they just play the character straight from the old show, then I think it's just clearly not going to work. I think it doesn't work with the new progressivism of the new show, and also it just doesn't gel with the thematics of the current show. So I think in kind of every way, this just feels really asynchronous, bringing him back. And I think that just don't do it. Like they could just like not have the character again. Maybe this was the last time we see them, like misspell him, and then that'd be fine. But
yeah, that'd be okay.
So we'll see. It's just very odd and not good.
But I'm afraid that I'm afraid that the reboot is like would be afraid. Like
I think it's too afraid to change. I think it is, yeah.
And I think it's afraid, and I think they'd be afraid not to have him in the show because he's a very prominent character.
Yeah.
And I feel like they'd be afraid. Which obviously I'm like, no, we don't even have to have him. But
yeah, it's not good. So we'll see what they do. Yeah, definitely a mixed bag with these two episodes, but I'm still very high on the show. I mean, I really love Powerpuff.
Also, we haven't even had like a Mojo Jojo episode. Like he's just been there.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think they care that much about the villains, but like we really don't. We've had their new villain has been the most prominent one, so
right.
I don't know. We'll continue to discuss. We'll see what they do with later episodes. Like I said, we're gonna go every other week because if it airs weekly, we'll talk about the next two episodes on the 28th or over the weekend that weekend, and we'll double up on them. Sound good? Yep, I'm Dylan Nice, and that's Delaney Stovall, overlyanimated.com. So you can find out everything. Check out other Powerpuff Girls discussion. Check out the article I wrote on the new Powerpuff Girls on overlyanimated.com/blog. Everything about that. And this ad-free podcast is brought to you by our patrons. Thank you very much to Shayna, Mitch, Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, Jamie, Rachel, John, Ryan, and Catherine, a.k.a. Hannah, Fever, Mitch, Cordell, University, Beach Exchange, Nathan, William, Buzz Lightyear, Mailman, Rachel, Rose, Johnny, Bravo, Brian, and Cookie Cat. You too can become a patron at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Final thoughts on these two episodes, Delaney?
Powerpuff Up was great. It was that the name of the episode, something like that. That was great. I really liked that episode. Bubbles is adorable and precious.
Still very high on the show, despite these potential setbacks, and the show is still finding itself.
Honestly, like Tiara Trouble, like was a fine episode. It's just like the fact that it's because him is in the episode, and it's like crap.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive elements we talked about when we went through it, so it's not like it was bad. That's all. We will see you guys next time to discuss the show and our other shows at overlyanimated.com. Ladybug coming out later today. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.